Week 3 of the preseason, usually the dress rehearsal when the starters will play an extended period of time. Some of the Browns regulars may not see any time, and head coach Freddie Kitchens is not going to necessarily say that the starters will play X amount of time in this third preseason game. All in all, coach seems pretty happy with where his team is at. He realizes the important thing is to win once the regular season starts, but as he approaches this third preseason game, the coach has some very definite goals in mind.
I just want to see consistency on how we compete. That's all. Sometimes you can't dictate the scoreboard, but you can definitely dictate on how you compete, how you prepare, and how you approach the game. And those are the things I want to judge. It's not necessarily the scoreboard.
Freddie, camp is over and the season's a few weeks away. What's the unfinished business to settle before? You can talk in generalities if you want.
Okay. I think, we've still got some spots that need to be earned and won. And if you're trying to win a spot, you have to also say that there's some spots that could be lost. But at the end of the day, we've got 4 practices and 2 games left now. And the sense of urgency with everybody surrounding the organization needs to increase. And I think it has to a certain extent. So it's just continuing to build on what we do, get the legs under our guys. I know at some point in camp, they probably didn't think this day was ever going to get here. But I made them a promise that I would have them ready to play from having their legs up under them, and I'll do that.
What do you think your biggest accomplishment this camp was?
I think we, the beginning stages of becoming a team, being in it together, holding each other accountable maybe a little bit more than we did before, which are all things that's a necessity moving through an NFL season and into a week-by-week basis.
I heard you say that this goes back to the running a really physical camp, and I heard you say that you wanted guys to have to practice banged up because that's what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
Where does that philosophy kind of come from? Is that something you were always taught? Or?
Well, I think a couple of different guys I've coached for, that has been their philosophy. That was Coach Parcells' philosophy. That was Coach Saban's philosophy. I didn't coach with him in the National Football League, but you could probably go down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama right now and see how they're practicing. And we're not the only ones in the National Football League doing this. Maybe the only ones you guys know about or that advertise it, because in some places, this is the norm. This isn't the exception. We're trying to make this the norm for us and how we prepare and how we practice on an everyday basis. That's the whole point of all this, is we have to raise our norm up a level. It can't stay where it's been. You continue to do the same things over and over, and you're going to get the same results. And I go off that philosophy.
So what I hear you saying basically is that you believe you have established the culture that you need to take you through the rest of the season in order to the Super Bowl. Right?
We will find out. The proof's in the pudding. So we'll see. I think we've got a good start, but I think that's an ongoing, continuing, building. Cultures just don't happen. Cultures happen by continuing to stack chips on top of each other and then having success with it. And then when you have success with it, it's easier to continue to stack those chips. So, we'll see.
Hey, Freddie,
I do think these guys have bought in to a certain extent, but I think we need to keep coming,
I apologize. Baker said he reached out to Daniel Jones yesterday to kind of clear the air. You know Baker much better than we do. Is that not surprising to you that he would want to make that kind of gesture?
That's what I'd fully expect him to, because, he wanted to make sure it was interpreted properly, and I would too if I were him.
Do you think some of what Baker's persona has become gets distorted or misconstrued by people, the kind of kid that he is?
I think definitely. I would, beyond a shadow of a doubt. If you have a perception of someone and they say something that can be interpreted a certain way that would benefit your perception of that person, then of course you're going to perceive it as that. There's not going to be benefit of the doubt on the other way. And so, yeah. Goodness gracious.
Well, jumping in there for
I'm sorry for him. All right?
We're all trying to learn the game.
beginning of camp, you said, how we act.
You go ahead. Say it doesn't feel good, does it?
You were looking ready to embrace the inevitable adversity that your season will bring.
Right.
I don't think you faced any adversity yet. Do you? And do you think what was the closest in this camp to being what you would classify as adversity?
I think adversity can be on an individual basis. So you'd have to ask those 90 guys in the locker room, see what adversity they've taken, or they've encountered. And do I think we've faced some adversity? Yeah. I think getting on a plane and going to Indianapolis and staying for 2 days, the first time we'd traveled as a team, and going against a good football team with a lot of fans. A lot of them were ours. But, I think that was some adversity. Adversity can be either very small or very big, depending on what it is and depending on where you are as an individual and collectively as a team at that present time. So, I think we've found some adversity.
Is the Callaway thing?
Being in pads every day is an adversity for a lot of guys. So, collectively, individually, depending on how they treated it, it may be more adversity for them in general, but it's going to collectively be in adversity.